Earlier this year on the channel, I pointed out a trend that I saw happening in the marketplace where townhome buyers were looking to take advantage of the market. And that was because with higher interest rates last year, detached home prices fell, and so did townhomes. But townhomes didn't come down nearly as far. You see, townhome prices fell only about $25,000 from July 2023 until this last January, while detached fell from $1.543 million to $1.466, more than 3 times the savings in actual dollars spent. That, along with rates dropping over the same time period on 5-year fixed money from as much as maybe 6.39% to now as low as about 5.09%, well, that had townhome owners jumping at the opportunity to finally make the leap to that detached dream home. And now, well, it's all changed. Today, only 3 months later, I'm going to share with you a new trend that we are seeing here in the market and the pitfalls of such trend and how you can avoid the trap yourself that so many buyers and sellers are finding themselves in right now. But I can't go any further without asking you to please first subscribe to the channel if you would like to stay up to date here on my market of Surrey and the Fraser Valley. Please also click the like button if you appreciate videos like this, keeping you up to date on the market. And remember, if you need help in my area of Surrey and the Fraser Valley and you don't already have an agent working for you, you can book a call with me right now using the link in the description below at a time that works best for you. And now on to the market and the situation that an overwhelming amount of my active clients are finding themselves in. So let's set this up. Right now, we are seeing almost no first-time buyers in the marketplace. And maybe about a third of our clients are looking to upsize from their current home to something a little bigger. And about 2/3 of them are actually going the other way. They're looking to downsize from their long-time family detached home to now a townhouse or a condo, or maybe a property that is a downsize in price outside of the Lower Mainland. But these folks all seem to have the same one problem. Almost all of them want to move, but none of them really have any need to move. In other words, they would go ahead and make the move if they found the right place, but it has to be that. It has to be just perfect. Because after all, they're probably not going to downsize or even upsize unless that place is just right. And obviously, we can understand. After spending your whole life trying your best to pay down your mortgage in a home that was not beyond your means, but something very comfortable, you deserve that if you're going to move on to the next place for it to be just right. So most of the potential sellers in this market are not actually coming to market because they don't know where they're going to go. And at the same time, they're not really taking the steps needed to put themselves in a position to be successful when that perfect place actually does come to the market. Let me explain. You see, let's say the seller of any given home that was bought in the 90s is probably now paid off, and those sellers are either at or near retirement. Or let's say you've owned a home and paid down quite a bit on it, and it's time for you to upsize. But again, only if the property is just right. Most of these people in this situation think that because they have a low mortgage, or maybe even no mortgage, that they deserve the ability to move to a different home of their choosing before they sell their current home. Or at least that's what they would like to do. But very quickly they start to understand that most of us cannot complete on a $1 million townhouse purchase, even if we own our $1.5 million detached home outright without first selling that home. And even if you can afford to do it, when you run the numbers and the payments on a $1 million mortgage, the carrying costs could be as much as $5,000 to $7,000 per month, a number that most people find too much to stomach, understandably. So we have a whole bunch of people that want to move, but only if they find the right place. But they can't afford to move or are not willing to afford the new place, so they have to sell first, but you then won't sell first because you're worried about where you're going to end up. Now, as I said, there are actually financing options for a lot of these people, but it's extremely expensive. So now we need to break down the 2 different risk options that you, if you find yourself in this situation, have to pick from. Yes, there is risk when you're buying and selling real estate, and you have to pick one of these 2. The first risk is not knowing where you're going to end up. This is the risk that unfortunately most people have to face because they can't afford to own two homes. Lord knows I can't. This means that yes, most likely you have to sell first in order to know how much money you have, and then you will have to pick from the available active inventory on the market to offer on as your new home. And if you have very specific needs and wants in your future property, you're going to be very, very worried that you won't find anything at all, and inevitably you will end up homeless, or at least you think you will. The second risk is the risk of not knowing how much money you have. This is also achieved by buying first and selling second. And this is the risk of financial ruin. Many people, tons of people, will buy and commit to a new property first and put themselves in a position where they absolutely have to sell their old home in order to close. This is super risky because if the market dips, or if the market doesn't give you the amount that you thought your home was worth and you end up selling for way less, well, you still have to sell. So you might end up down $50,000, $100,000, or even $250,000 in the wrong direction. As agents, we hear of these types of horror stories around the office all the time. And if I'm showing your property to my client and in the negotiation you ask for a very specific closing date, I know there's a really good chance that you have already bought something, and because you have already bought something, you could be desperate to sell. And now it's my job in negotiations to make your bad situation a financial windfall for my buyers. So that brings us then maybe to you, the person going through this conundrum right now, and you talk yourself into this perfect solution.
No. I figured it out. I'm only going to write offers subject to the sale of my house.
Subject to sale. 3 words that agents absolutely hate to hear. In fact, start talking subject to sale to your agent and they might stop returning your calls altogether. For those who don't know exactly what subject to sale means or how it works, it's when you have a term in your offer to purchase your new home that says you will only buy that new home if your old home sells. And voila, you have outsmarted the market. Right?
Not even close.
You're right, not even close. Let's talk about the realities now of a subject to sale offer. First off, essentially what you're doing is you're asking the seller not to sell to another ready, able, and willing buyer, but to hold that property for you and wait until you sell your old place. Everyone buying obviously thinks that this is a great idea, but then I stop and I ask them, when you have a purchase pending and you put your property now on the market, what happens when and if a buyer comes to you for your property and offers you a subject to sale clause in that agreement? Well, every client I've ever had then says,
subject to sale? Not a chance. I'm not accepting that.
And I say,
exactly.
And that brings us to the next point. If you are selling your home and let's say you end up with 2 offers, one offer is for your asking price and conditional on inspection and financing for, say, 7 days. And the other offer is subject to the sale of another property. Now ask yourself, how much more money and for how long of a time period are you willing to accept that second offer for? If a buyer asks for 30 days to get their home sold, what is that worth to you? $1,000, $10,000, $20,000? And what if they're asking too much for their home and it never ends up selling? So now let's switch back to you for a second, writing the subject to sale offer on your dream home. How much over market value are you willing to pay to essentially ask that seller to hold the home or that property for you and not sell to another buyer now? And let's face it, you absolutely love the place because it's the perfect home. And well, these perfect places, they never come up. Well, then what are the chances that another buyer in the market is not going to offer on that property at the same time? I'd say chances are probably pretty slim. And then because it's such a good place, you will likely lose your dream home. So now that we know what not to do, and my advice is to always reduce my client's risk as much as possible, let's talk about how we might be able to make this situation a success and get you out of that very nice and comfy home, but now into that perfect downsize. Or maybe you're going the other direction. First, my team works with clients all the time who need help getting their homes ready for sale. We do this with something called an exclusive listing and not the more popular MLS listing. An exclusive listing gives us the power to help you get your property ready for market without actually having to go to market. Some people take weeks or even months to get ready to sell, and we understand that. So with an exclusive listing, we can represent you by putting you and your home in a position to come to the market at a moment's notice. Like exactly when that perfect property comes up. Because even if now, after hearing all this, you still insist that you're only going to write subject to sale offers, your property had better be ready to come to the market the day after your offer is accepted on your dream home. If the seller sees that you are ready to hit the market and you're well priced, they're much more willing to accept your subject to sale offer. Think about this. If you do write an offer conditional upon your sale, and you don't even have plans to come to the market for another 30 or 60 days, every seller out there is going to tell you to just beat it. Or if you are dead set on buying first and you understand now that a subject to sale offer will require you paying more than market value for your next home, with an exclusive listing, if your home is already in the system and ready to turn on overnight, you can get an accepted offer and maybe even accept an offer on your home all at the exact same time. This is recently what one of our very own team members did on her personal residence just last month. This reduces risk dramatically, as you're now buying and selling in the same market, not overpaying, and you will likely be able to line up the closing dates. Or even apply for a small bridge loan if you plan on carrying a new mortgage on your next home. And if all this risk and all these steps seem super complicated, well, it is. And that leaves us with what most people should do. Most people should come to market at a time that works best for them. Get your home ready to sell for top dollar and then come to market.
Steve, where am I going to end up going?
Yeah, that's always what I get asked. And this is my response. Your listing has a price that you are asking for your home. But that's not the only factor in the offer. There are a lot of terms that could be important to you. One of which is the closing date. Many agents will tell you that you should close your sale in as little as 30 days. That's great for them because they can get a really quick paycheck, but it's not good for you. I encourage my clients that are selling to never accept anything less than a 30-day close unless it's in their best interest, and ideally we should shoot for about 120 days. Because you shouldn't be pressured into a purchase and you need time to find the perfect home. Accepting longer dates relieves the pressure of having to buy today and now with a more normal 60-day close. So even if you take a little bit of a break and now you have something like 30, 60, or 90 days, possibly even more to find the next place, before you really panic and start thinking about making alternate arrangements, and trust me, if you have 2 months to find your next place, you will make it happen because it's going to be your full-time job. But we have never had a client go homeless in my career yet. I'm kidding. So there you have it. Risk not knowing where you're going to go and have the fear of becoming homeless. Or risk not knowing how much you have in the bank and have the fear of financial ruin. Those are your only two options. And you would be absolutely, probably shocked to find out that most people are way more comfortable with the possibility of financial ruin than they are the fear of having to sleep on their mother-in-law's couch for a week or two. And yes, if you work with a professional and you're not too afraid to put in a little bit of elbow grease and get your home ready to come to the market at exactly the right time, well, all of these risks can be reduced dramatically. And if you find yourself in a situation like this one and you need help, well, you can book a call with me right now using the link in the description below at a time that works best for you. Thank you for subscribing, clicking the like button, and we'll see you in a couple of days.